Every small town has a retail story. Some towns keep most of their dollars local, others quietly lose them every weekend to the bigger city down the road. You can see it in the traffic patterns, you can hear it in conversations, you can feel it when you drive through town and notice what's missing. A family lives in a town of 25,000 people. They buy gas locally, their kids go to the school locally, they may go to church locally, work locally, and spend most of their week inside that community. But when they need a better grocery option or new clothes for the kids, sporting goods, a sit-down restaurant, a gym, a Target run, or a specialty medical appointment, they can get in the car and drive 30 or 45 minutes to the bigger city nearby. That's retail leakage. It tells us what the market wants, what the market doesn't have, where the opportunity might exist if the right tenant, the right site, the right economics all come together. But there's an important warning here. Leakage doesn't automatically mean opportunity. Just because a town's missing a Target doesn't mean Target should go there. Just because people drive out of town for restaurants doesn't mean every restaurant concept will work locally. And just because a category is leaking doesn't mean that the local real estate can capture it. That's what this video is about. How to spot retail leakage in a small market, how to understand what it means, and how investors can use it without overreaching. Retail leakage is a simple concept. It happens when people who live in a trade area spend money outside that trade area because a local retail market doesn't meet their needs. In plain English, the demand exists, but local businesses are not capturing all of it. The dollars are leaving. There's also the opposite concept, retail surplus. That's what a market brings in more retail spending than its own residents would normally support. For example, a town may have more restaurant sales than its population alone should generate because people from surrounding communities come there to eat. Or a county seat may have more grocery or medical and service spending than its city population suggests because it pulls customers from smaller towns nearby. So leakage and surplus are two sides of the same retail story. Leakage shows what a market is missing. Surplus shows what a market is already winning. If you study a small market, the question is not just how many people live here. The better question is, where do these people spend their money? Once you start asking these questions, the map begins to look different. You stop seeing just a small town. You start seeing a trade area. This matters because hometown markets are often misunderstood. A lot of investors look at a town of 20,000 or 30,000 people and immediately screen it out. They assume it's too small. They assume there isn't enough demand. They assume national tenants will not care. But in secondary and tertiary markets, city population, it can be misleading. A town may look small on paper, but it might serve a much larger region. In hometown America, retail demand is often less about the city limits and more about the daily pattern of the region. Where do people drive? Where do they work? Where do they shop on Saturday? Where do they take their kids for sports? Where do they go when they need something the local market does not provide? That's why retail leakage matters. It helps reveal the difference between a town that's truly too small and a town that's simply underserved. And there's a big difference. One has weak demand. The other may have hidden demand. For investors, the distinction is where that opportunity really begins. Some categories are more likely to leak from small markets than others. The first is grocery. This might be value grocery or specialty grocery, a better full-service grocer, or simply a more affordable option. In some towns, residents have a local grocery store, but they still drive elsewhere for better prices or better selection or a more modern shopping experience. The second is apparel and soft goods. People may leave town for a TJ Maxx, a Ross, children's clothing, shoes, or local boutiques in a larger regional hub. Apparel often requires more scale, so smaller towns may simply not have many options. The third, restaurants. A town may have fast food but no coffee shop or breakfast place or fast casual option or a sit-down Mexican restaurant. So residents drive elsewhere for the experience they can't get locally. The fourth is sporting goods. This is especially important in towns with strong school sports, youth sports, tournament facilities, or outdoor recreation. Families spend money on equipment, on shoes, uniforms, apparel, accessories. If there's no place to buy those items locally, that spending leaks. The fifth, pet and rural lifestyle. Pet supplies, grooming, veterinary care, farm and ranch products, garden, hardware, tractor supply type demand can all reveal something about a market's lifestyle and household needs. The sixth is healthcare and service retail. Urgent care, dental, vision, physical therapy, fitness, salons, med spas, and wellness services are often overlooked, but they can be very important in small market retail centers. And then there's entertainment, movies, bowling, arcades, family entertainment, trampoline parks, or other things for families to do after school, weekends, or between games. Before you ever open a data report, you can often start spotting leakage on the ground. The market usually gives you clues. The first clue is what locals say. If you keep hearing, "We always drive to the next town for that," pay attention. That sentence is market research. Maybe they drive 30 minutes for an Aldi. Maybe they drive 45 minutes for a Chick-fil-A. Maybe they drive to the regional hub for a TJ Maxx or Target or Starbucks, a steakhouse, a gym, or a better grocery store. Locals usually know the gaps before the data confirms them. Another clue is social media. Small-town Facebook groups can be surprisingly useful. People will tell you exactly what they want. When are you going to get an Aldi? Why don't you have a Chick-fil-A? We need more things for kids to do. That doesn't mean every request is realistic, but it tells you what people feel is missing. Another clue is the nearest regional hub. If the larger city down the road has full parking lots every weekend and the license plates are coming from surrounding counties, that tells you something. People are already making the trip. You can also look at Walmart. In many hometown markets, Walmart becomes the default retail anchor because there are not many alternatives. If the Walmart parking lot is packed all day, every day, it may not just be because Walmart's strong. It may be because the rest of the market is thin. Youth sports can reveal leakage too. A town may host tournaments and bring in families from all over the region. But if there's not enough hotels or restaurants or coffee shops or entertainment options, the spending may leak to another nearby city. New housing is another signal. If rooftops are growing but retail has not caught up, leakage may be building in real time. And sometimes the clue is a weak tenant mix in a strong location. You may see an older strip center with good traffic, decent visibility, and plenty of parking, but the tenants do not match the quality of the corridor. That may mean the market is ready for better uses, but the real estate has not been repositioned yet. The point's simple. Before the data confirms leakage, locals usually describe it. The investor's job is to listen, observe, and then verify. Once you have a story, you need to test it. A field visit can tell you what might be happening. Data helps tell you whether it's strong enough to underwrite. There are several ways to confirm leakage. You can use retail leakage and surplus reports to compare local consumer demand with local retail sales. You can use trade area and drive times analysis to understand how far the market really reaches. You can look at census and demographic data to study population, income, household age, household growth, age, and spending potential. You can study traffic counts to see whether the site actually sits on the path of demand. You can look at credit card or mobility data, if available, to understand where people are going. You can use sales tax data in markets where that information is accessible. You can talk to brokers, city officials, economic development leaders, school administrators, hotel operators, restaurant owners, and local business owners. You can look at hotel occupancy and event calendars if sports tourism or visitor demand is part of the story. You can study school enrollment, housing permits, employer growth, or hospital expansion to see whether the market's gaining momentum. The field visit gives you the story. The data tells you whether the story is real, and both matter. If you only use data, you may miss the local nuance. If you only use anecdotes, you may fool yourself into believing a market is stronger than it is. The best investors use both. This is the part that keeps you disciplined. Retail leakage can reveal opportunity, but it can also mislead you. Just because people leave town for something doesn't mean that something belongs in town. A lot of towns, they want a Target. That doesn't mean Target makes sense. A town may want a Costco, a Trader Joe's, a Cheesecake Factory, or even a Whole Foods. But those retailers have specific requirements. They need certain income levels or traffic counts, population density, sales volume, co-tenancy, and real estate conditions. If the market cannot support the tenant, the leakage may be real, but not capturable in that format. Sometimes the opportunity is a smaller version of the same demand. Maybe the town cannot support Target, but it can support a strong dollar store, a regional grocer, a Five Below, a Ross, a Tractor Supply, a Planet Fitness, or a local operator. Maybe it cannot support a high-end steakhouse, but it can support a family dining restaurant. That's the art of reading leakage. You're not just asking what's missing. You're asking what's missing that this market can actually support. There are many reasons leakage may not be capturable. The market may be too small. Income levels may not support the category. Customers may actually prefer the larger regional shopping trip. There may be no good real estate available. Construction costs may be too high. Rents may not justify tenant improvement costs. The category may be leaking online instead of to another physical store, or a nearby competitor may already dominate the category. This is why leakage is only the beginning. It tells you where demand is leaving. It doesn't automatically tell you which tenant should come back. So how do you turn leakage into an investor framework? Here's the hometown leakage test. First, what category is leaking? Is it grocery, restaurants, apparel, healthcare, fitness, entertainment, pet, sporting goods, home improvement? You need to define the category clearly. Second, where's the money going? Is it going to the nearest regional city, a Walmart, a mall, a lifestyle center, online, hospital district, a youth sports corridor, a neighboring county? The destination matters because it tells you what kind of trip the customer is making. Third, how far are people driving? A 10-minute leak is different from a 45-minute leak. If people are driving 45 minutes every week for groceries or restaurants, that may reveal stronger frustration than a short trip to the next town over. Fourth, how often does a trip happen? Weekly grocery leakage is more powerful than once a year furniture leakage. Frequency matters because retail real estate's built on repeat trips. Fifth, is the demand broad enough? A whole town needing better grocery is different from a small group of people wanting one niche retailer. The broader the demand, the more investable it becomes. 6, does a market have spending power? People may want better options, but retailers need sales. Sales supports rent. Rent supports value. Demand has to translate into economics. 7th, is there real estate that fits? This is where many leakage stories fall apart. You need the right access, visibility, parking, box size, utilities, zoning, traffic, co-tenancy. A tenant may want the market, but still reject the available real estate. 8th, can the economics work? The tenant may like the site, but not at the rent the landlord wants. The landlord may want to upgrade the property, but the tenant improvement costs may not pencil. The demand may be real, but the deal may still not work. That's the test. Leakage becomes opportunity only when demand, tenant fit, real estate, and economics, they all line up. For investors, the goal is to own the real estate positioned to capture demand that already exists. That means asking better questions. Is this site on the path of leaked spending? Can this building fit the category that's missing? Are the rents realistic? Is there enough replacement tenant demand if the first tenant doesn't work? Am I buying before the market recognizes the opportunity, or am I buying after it's already priced in? Does a tenant have a reason to choose my site over another site? Retail leakage can help identify hidden demand, but the real estate still has to work. The site has to work. The rent has to work. The tenant has to work. The exit has to work. That's why leakage is a powerful tool, but not a shortcut. Used correctly, it helps investors see what other people missed. Used carelessly, it can become a justification for a deal that should not be done. Retail leakage is one of the best ways to understand hometown markets because it shows us what the market's asking for. When people drive out of town every week for groceries, restaurants, apparel, healthcare, fitness, entertainment, or youth sports spending, they're giving investors a clue. The demand may already exist. The question is whether the right real estate, the right tenant, the right economics can bring that demand home. That's the real opportunity in small markets. Not forcing retail where it doesn't belong. Not assuming every missing store should show up, but identifying the places where the market is already telling you what it needs. In hometown America, opportunity often starts with one simple question. Where are the dollars going? And what would it take to keep them here?